And just like that, we are back at the beginning of another Savage stream. Let me know if my voice is too loud. It looks like the levels are a little bit loud, so I'm going to turn that down just a little bit. I was playing around with my mic today, trying to make it sound a little bit better. So maybe that's okay. I don't know. Let me know. Let me know if I'm too loud. It looks like incredibly loud, so I don't know. The levels always freak me out because I don't want to like be screaming at people and stuff. So let me know in the chat whether or not it's good. I'll check back over there in a minute so I don't get distracted. So yesterday we were looking at, or last night we were looking at, we went over merge mining Ethereum and Zilliqa, and tonight we're going to look at how that turned out, kind of. We'll look at the pool and find out what's going on with it. And actually, I still have this rig doing that. It's just a test rig. It's got 2 GPUs in it. Not a big deal. So it's just been kind of hashing away. But I did have it off. It's been on for a few hours now, I think. So we're going to look at that. And by the end of the stream, you should be pretty comfortable with properly overclocking your GPUs and Hive OS for maximum efficiency. You know, like a normal GPU, overclock is for maximizing performance. You know, we all kind of know that. But the thing is that in mining, you want to not only increase performance, but you also want to increase efficiency, right? So it's not just about making it outperform the stock settings. It's also about, hey, what are my settings that will get the best efficiency, the most hash per watt, right? That's basically what you're kind of looking at. So over here on the pool for last night, you can see that, you know, you can see the hash rate and stuff here. So I don't know when I actually started again. It looks like 440 maybe 430 is whenever I actually turned it back on and let it start eating again. So I don't have a lot. I don't even have nowhere near enough ETH for a payout. It's like 0.05 for the payout for ETH. So I would have to mine for quite some time before I got something like that. But you can see the profitability here. It's not great. Again, this is just 2 GPUs. It's not a big deal. So that's why it looks like that. It's a little shocking because most people are like, good grief, man. But you know, it's just a couple of GPUs, so that's why it's only 63 mega hash. And you know, you can see right now it's mining ETH, and then in 122 minutes, or 2 hours, it's going to switch over to ZIL. I think it only mines ZIL for like a minute, and then it switches back to ETH, something like that. I don't know. And I tried to do some research on why it's like that and why there's no entry for ZIL and what to mine or anything like that. It seems like it's based around the fact that it's a sharding algorithm or sharding protocol. So the way the mining works, it's just weird. I'll have to dive more into it. I did not have time to really look into it that deep, but from what I can tell, that's kind of like what it's about. So if you guys know more about that, let me know over here in the chat. And let's look at some overclock settings in Hive OS. So if you go to Hive OS, most everybody here has seen some of the videos on my channel for Hive OS, or you know, Seth Estrada's got some good videos on Hive. A lot of us do. So one of the questions that I get a lot is overclocks and overclocking templates. They used to be called, I believe in previous versions of Hive OS, it was called overclocking profiles, and I actually named the thumbnail overclocking profiles, but I changed it right before the stream because I was like, wait a minute, that's not right. It's templates. So anyway, had to make that change real quick. But you know, overclocking does have a lot of benefits. You get the increased performance in the mining world. You get downvolting. You get to reduce the power a little bit, and you know, try to increase that hash per watt, right? And it does take some time to figure out what's best for your hardware. You know, everybody's system is going to be different. You're probably going to have a different motherboard, different style GPUs, different memory on the GPUs. You know, like I have one rig that's got all Micron memory except for one GPU has Hynix, and it's a mess, right? Because that one GPU with Hynix has have different settings, or it fails if I apply it across the board. So it's just a headache, right? So it's better to have all the same hardware for sure, including the type of memory. So how can you tell if your overclocking is not efficient or not doing well? Most of the time you can tell because you are getting rejected shares. Okay, so that's like the easiest way. And that just means that, you know, your GPUs are working, they're hashing away on a problem, but they are submitting bad data because they're getting errors in the hashing, they're getting errors in the calculation, and what they're submitting to the pool, if you're on a pool, is incorrect. And that's why you know, you kind of want to watch your rejected shares, and normally it has to do with overclocking. Not always, but most of the time. So you can see right here, my accepted shares ratio is at 100%. So I would be really confident that this rig is pretty efficient right now. I mean, really efficient. I say rig, it's only got 2 GPUs, but you get my point. I'm also at a 0 load average, fan at 50%. I mean, this thing is cruising right along with no problems, right? And it's been like this for quite some time. I haven't restarted it in a while. I think right here is runtime, yeah, 2 hours and 57 minutes. So I mean, that's not a huge, you know, normally if you're going to be monitoring overclock settings, you want to get a few hours in there, you know, to make sure everything's okay. But this is, in my eyes, this is super stable, super stable. And this is the same configuration that we used last night with the flight sheet with ETH and ZIL. It says ETH here. You know what I would love to know, if this thing actually does switch over and say ZIL for that 1 minute. That's a good question. No, it won't, because this flight sheet is specifically for ETH. So I doubt it would change over. I think I did see it actually change over, because I was watching it and the hash rate dropped like dramatically. And I thought I had done something, because I was kind of playing around with some overclock settings, and I thought I had done something, but I guess that it probably just switched over. We could probably look at that and see. I think there's like, if you go into the rig, you can probably see, it says all ETHASH here. So, I mean, you know, it would, but see right here, it dropped off a little bit. Actually, a little bit earlier, it dropped off. I don't know. I'd have to dig into that and see what's going on with it. But anyway, and see what we are supposed to see whenever it switches over to ZIL. Probably won't see anything here. It'd probably be on the pool. Yeah, most likely you would just see it here. I don't think that you would actually see anything over here in Hive. Anyway, all right, let's keep on going here. So that's how you would tell. You would see basically, you know, you want to monitor your accepted shares. You know, if that's starting to have a problem, then you might be messed up on your overclock settings. And in Hive OS, it's kind of a really good idea to create a farm-wide overclock profile, so that any GPU that, or any rig that you add to the farm will receive that default instead of stock settings and voltages. And I mean, if you saw it, actually you saw it the other day, whenever I first fired this rig up on, I think it was Monday, and I fired this rig up, and it kind of, that was last night. No, it wasn't last night. Anyway, maybe it was last night. And we were looking at it, and it was like running hot, and because it had no overclock settings at all, it was like all stock, and it was trying to mine, and with the default settings, it's just going to go crazy, right? So it's really good to create a farm wide, which I clearly did not have. So that's why I kind of wanted to cover it tonight, because I had overclock settings for specific algorithms, and for specific rigs, but not overall like a default. So that's kind of what we wanted to cover tonight. So we're going to go to the farm, and then we'll go to overclocking templates, and you can see the ones that I have here. But we need to create one. You know, this is for a specific rig, this is for a specific rig, and you don't see any like farm-wide overclocking template in here, right? So you go to add OC template, you can give it a name, probably something like Savage Farm template, something like that. We'll put OC in here. Not that we don't know that it's an OC template, but just for the sake of ease of recognition as soon as you see it. So we gave it a name and we saved it. Put my phone down so it's not buzzing, y'all. And this template it'll be used by all the GPUs unless you specify something else, right? So like if this rig connects, you can use this, it'll use this default config, because if you have one specified for a specific rig, then this will override the farm default, right? So basically, I guess you could probably, this is the default for this rig. I think by default it doesn't have anything in here. I think I have messed with this over time, but I'm pretty sure that this is all blank if you just add a rig and don't modify it in any way. So at that point, if you didn't have this default and you didn't have an algorithm for the rig, then it's going to just go wide open and be all the stock settings. So you don't want that. So what we're trying to avoid there is that. Like if we were to add a rig to this farm and it didn't have the default config settings, then it would go wide open. So we're gonna mess around with this. So we've got the name of Savage Farm OC template. Save that, then we're gonna go and these profiles have both AMD and NVIDIA GPUs in the same profile, right? So the settings are across the board for both. You can use one profile for both types of GPUs. And in order to find out like what's going on with your GPUs, if you don't know, then you can go back over here to workers. I mean, you have to be in a rig, right? So you go to in a rig, and in this case, we're just gonna run, because we kind of want to look at what our hardware is in our rig, or if you needed to find out. In this case, it's AMD, so we're gonna use AMD info. If it was NVIDIA, you could use NVIDIA SMI, and I think that this might actually, we're gonna find out tomorrow night, because I'm gonna do this basically the same stream on NVIDIA tomorrow night, but I think that it will actually tell you your upper and middle and lower limits to overclock settings for the GPU. I think. I haven't verified that, but I think that that's something that's in there. So you'll kind of know what ballpark you're going to be in with your GPUs right off the bat. But in this case, we're going to click on AMD info. It just puts it up here. Then we have to click on run over here. Then you'll see it run back here. And once it's done, you can click on it to get the information. And in this case, there's only 2 GPUs. Super simple. So once it's done like this, and it's got the little greater than sign, you can just click it. And this is basically a command line prompt. I mean, this isn't, but this is the information from the command line. Basically AMD info. If you SSH into a rig, you could run AMD info at the command prompt also, and it will pull this information. It's just kind of an automated way of doing it. And we're just looking at what it's running right now. It looks like this is this says 1072 for, oh, okay, so this is a good point. I wanted to actually look at this, because we'll come back in here in a minute, because I want to show you something that I learned, and I thought that it was kind of cool. So a little bit of information about your cards. It looks like this might be where you can get a TDP from. I mean, this says cap of 135 for an RX 580, but it doesn't really say 580 up here. It says all of them. So you'd have to know that GPU 1 is a 580. I don't think it says that anywhere on here. It says it back here, but not right here. So I wonder, I don't think that that's the TDP for a 580 though. I don't know, let me know. Is that the TDP for an RX 580? I'd have to look at my sheet, I just don't remember. All right, anyway, it's not that important right now. Let's go ahead and clean this up a little bit. All right, so that's how you would determine, what's going on with your GPUs and which one you have and all that stuff. So we're gonna go back to the farm. We're gonna go back to overclock templates. Scroll down here to the template that we're trying to modify. We're gonna click the little plus next to add, or add next to the name. And then for algorithm, this might be a little bit confusing at first, but if you click it and then click default config, that's what you want. for a default configuration. And in our case, like I said, it's got both of them on here, but we're only dealing with AMD tonight. For the core, for default settings, I would put something like 1100 or 1150. If you've got 570s and 580s, you could probably get away with 1150, but just to be safe, let's put in 1100 for the core. Now, that's the memory, I'm sorry, the core clock, and let's see here. The starting value should be around 1100. That's typically what you would put there just to start. You know, you can play around with this. Again, your hardware is gonna vary. Your mileage may vary depending on your hardware setup and all that, and the model of your GPUs and your memory and all that stuff. If the core state here is unset, if this option is unset, you can what they've done really that's really nice is, you know, just put your little mouse over the eye, and it tells you basically what some settings are and stuff like that. Now, the way I think the core state works is it works off of DPM, Dynamic Power Management. Basically, you can set this setting between 1 and 7, with the default being 5, so it basically stays at 5 unless you change it. And what they'll do is it actually will modify your core clock and your core voltage on its own, right? So it's basically like a setting, but it's dynamic, so it'll change it up and down, probably based on, you know, load, not really load, but what's being processed and how much power it needs. So it's kind of dynamic instead of setting a definite value in there. So I think that's kind of cool. I think that probably what I would do here is probably just put 5 if I was going to leave this up here, right? As the value, because this is the default. So I'm going to go like this, and then for core voltage, let's go with 900. I think that's pretty stable. I normally go a little bit lower, but this is a default farm template, so I don't want to do anything too wild and crazy, but normally I'm in the 850, 840 range for core voltage, just to get the voltage down there so that it's more efficient. And we're not going to be validating any of this as far as, like, we're not going to go to do the spreadsheet and which setting is best. This is just kind of like how to do this for a farm, so that your farm has a default config, right? So the memory controller voltage, I think this one, I want to say that this one I always put, I think I kind of mimic what's up here on that, but this says that the range default is 850. I'm just going to leave it at that. Maybe that's why I think that I match these up, because normally I put 850 up here too. So we'll just go, we'll leave that as default. The memory clock, let's go with something like a good default. I think it doesn't even have an example here, but I think a good default is something like 2100. And this is for 570s and 580s. And the mem state, if you put your mouse over that, it says pretty clearly that this is pretty advanced. You really only want to mess with that if you're having problems undervolting. Or if undervolting works, then don't change this value, right? It says RX cards are known to have 1 or 2 memory states, 3 if you included 0 as the idle. The highest state will be selected by default, so that's good. In some rare cases, cards may fail to undervolt on the highest state, thus requiring to select a lower one. So we're going to leave this alone. We're not going to change it. Memory voltage. Let's put our mouse over that. Sets the voltage supply on the memory chips. Tells you the permissible range. And I usually leave this alone as well, by default. Fan, I'm going to let I have auto fans set in Hive OS, and I'll show you that in a second. Don't let me forget. But basically I have that set in Hive, so I'm going to leave that value alone. And then power limit, I want to say that this is kind of new. Currently applicable only to Vega and Navi GPUs. Okay, so must have been an update, because I don't remember that being in there for older cards, I guess. So we don't have Vega or Navi, so that would come in handy for those. And then I always choose aggressive undervolting depending on what I'm mining. Okay, if it's ETHASH or something like that, I definitely have that selected. So I'm going to, let's go ahead and let's not choose that for a default. Okay, since this is default, I don't want to throw anything too much at it. We probably could go ahead and throw in for RX boost. We probably could put in a 30 down there. That's basically what I see most of the time. It seems to work. I don't know if you saw it, but I already have these cards set with 30 for the refresh rate. There's more information on that. If you go click on this right here, AMDMEMTWEAK manual, if you click on that, I mean, it says 20 here, but I'm telling you, 30 is the most common that I see. So if you save that, then you see the values in here, which is nice. But if you did click on that AMDTweak manual, then this is where it would take you, and it basically lays out all the different settings, and you can see right here, like, you know, kind of a default here, and you can get pretty into it. I don't know how important this is for, I would imagine that it depends on what you're mining, but some of this is, I mean, if you like to tinker, okay, great. But if you want to mine and be efficient, maybe it's not too important to go too deep into this, right? You just want to maximize your hash power per watt, you know, and if some of this stuff, if it takes you, you know, an hour to research it and find out the different settings, and it gets you 0.01 hashes more per watt, was it really worth it to spend the hour? Maybe, if you value that learning experience, but as far as on the mining side, you've wasted some time, right? Especially if you're like restarting the rig or crashing the rig, or it's not stable after you change this stuff. So there, I've said my piece on that. All right. It looks like they got a video down there too, so this might be cool to watch. I haven't seen that yet. All right, I'll leave that up so I can watch it later. All right, so let's see here. Now, if we wanted to apply this to workers that are already here, then you would just come over here, click go to workers, then click the check mark next to the rig that you want to apply it to. Click on the overclocking templates up here on the top, and then choose the OC template that we just created, and then it wants to, you know, it's going to ask you whether or not you want to merge or replace. In this case, I'm just going to click cancel because it's already got some overclock settings in there. Cancel that. But now if you were to add a rig and it was an AMD rig, then it would get those settings without touching it, right? So those are the settings that it would get, which is pretty cool. So I think that's something that's pretty important to do if you're in Hive OS. Now you can see here, this is what I kind of wanted to point out. I had set, you can see I've got core at 0. I don't have it set that way. What I did was, because you can, if you use the core state, you can only use the core state if you want. So you just put in the value that you want, and it will adjust the core voltage and the core clock based on this dynamic power management setting. So you can see right here what I did was I set it to 3, and it looks fairly efficient, but I think that I was around this with these same settings down here, and I think I was getting a little bit more hash rate. So I think that for mining purposes and stability, I think it's probably better to put in your own values here. Let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go back to 850, 850, and 1150 on the core. All right, let's do that. I'm going to go 850 here. 850 here, and then we'll give it a minute and see if, and you can see the other settings here that I've left alone. So now it goes back in there. Oh wait, I messed that up. Core would be 1150. All right, so what we want to watch is the power, right? The power and the mega hash, so, or the hash rate. All right, so while that's cranking up, and we'll give it a minute to see if it comes back up to 3152, because I'm telling you, this rig was super stable, or this GPU was super stable, along with this one down here at 31.5. I think it was identical. I think they were both 31.52. And the funny thing is, these GPUs aren't even modded. These are stock. These are the Armor Mark IIs, the MSI Armor Mark IIs, which I love. Great cards, man. But yeah, stock. So let me check this chat, see what you guys are up to. What's up, Nemesis? What's up, Ace24? Jay Bohannon. Yeah, it looks like, I don't know why I am dropping frames. I see that down here. I just saw the little notification. What am I running? I'm not running anything crazy that I'm not normally. Yeah, the default state is 5. That's correct, Nemesis. Now, I do have autofan set right here, and it seems to work fine for me. But I do hear, you know, people having problems with it, but it seems to work fine for me. You saw last night, whenever I first fired this up, you know what? Maybe I'm dropping frames because of what I did to my mic. Give me a second. Let me fix that. I'm going to, actually, let me just turn that part off. So I modded the settings on my mic to have a compressor on it. So I want to see, now I see that I've got like 9 notifications down here. It looks like, I don't know what that means as far as how many frames have been dropped or what, but let's see here. All right, so let me know if that's a little bit better. If I'm not dropping and chopping and all that stuff. So just let me know. All right. What was I saying? All right, let me know if that is better. It could be my internet. We were having some storms today, but I mean, it's been pretty solid for quite some hours. But again, I was playing around with some settings in OBS, so maybe that's what the situation is. But yeah, I use autofan settings on mine. You saw last night we didn't have autofan on, and it was super hot, but it had stock clocks too, so that's why they were running at like 75 degrees or whatever it was, you know. But now it seems to be a lot better. It looks like it's creeping up there. Let's do a refresh here. Okay, there we go. So I did a refresh, and you can see that now the only thing is, now look, okay, so now it's at 96 watts. Now I don't think it's going to stay that high. That's pretty high for this GPU. But if it does stay at 96, to get 31.54 using these settings, then you could just come back in here, because you saw it was down to 70, right? It was 70 before we added in 1150. I mean, you could also play around with decreasing the core, you know, maybe even increasing the power a little bit, or the voltage. There's a lot of different things you could do. This is a 570 and this is a 580, so maybe the core, pushing that core to 1150 might be the problem, or the 2150 on the memory. So maybe pull those down just a little bit, and maybe pull down the wattage. That might pull down the wattage. But you did see that it was at 29 point something over here, right? And 70 watts, which was pretty awesome. So I'm curious. Now I'm curious. I want to see. I really want to see that wattage go down, and it's not. So I am guessing. Let's go ahead and pull down. Let's pull down the core clock to 1100 and memory clock to 2100. Let's see if that changes the wattage. And again, you know, doing this stuff live and expecting like instant results is really a bad way to do it. You know, you kind of want things to work like super fast, but you know, it takes a little while for things to settle out. So, all right, so now it's wanting to get hot. Does anybody know? Yeah, there we go. All right, so Brandon coin's starting here in a second, so we need to head over there. I think that's all I wanted to cover. I don't know if you guys are doing any poker tonight. If you are, let me know. Actually, you know what? Let me throw this in here too, because chancoin wanted me to try a setting here. I'm going to throw it on the 580. So let's try the 580 with chancoin settings here. He wants 1180, 2 on the DPM, 840 over here, 2150 on the clock and memory clock. Doesn't give anything for the memory. Let's go ahead and just remove that. Let it rock that way. So I think that's what he wanted, and he wanted Ref 30 down here for AMD MEMTWEAK. All right, cool. Let's do that. See what that produces. All right, so you see right now, this is still pretty high, right? The wattage on this 570 is pretty high, in my opinion, because it was at 70 whenever I had DPM at 3 and nothing in the core and nothing in the voltage. So let me actually do what I did. Let's take this out of here. Hey, what's up, Savage Viking? All right, so I might still be dropping frames. So maybe it's just my internet, maybe it's not my mic settings. My bad, my bad. I did lose internet earlier today, but it came back, so maybe I just need to like restart my router or something. All right, so we're getting a solid 32 mega hash on that card on the 580 at 71 watts. Sounds super efficient, chancoin. Sounds awesome. I'm gonna do the same up here. I'm gonna go core state 2 here. What else did you have? You had I wonder if this will work for, I mean, it should. 1180 to 840, 2150. But again, this is a 570. But from my experience, it's so close to the 580. The Armor Mark IIs anyway. I mean, I've basically have always been able to apply the same settings to both. This one just, I don't like that wattage because I saw it at 70, so I know it can do it. Solid 32 there, I like that. Yeah, this is micro memory. So that setting is for that memory. Okay. I wonder why the wattage is going crazy like that though. I mean, it's not that bad, but this card, the 580 loves that setting for sure. All right, I'll do a reboot. Let's do a reboot. And then we'll head over to, once it reboots, it shouldn't take that long. We'll head over to Brandon Coin, see what he's up to. I'm just watching your chat there, chancoin. I'm paying attention to you. Yeah, I know I have to be patient, but it's hard whenever you're live. Yeah, I know that the auto tuning takes a while for Phoenix Miner to come up, but it looks like it's already up. So those appear to be some pretty great settings, man, for sure. Low temps, low fan speed, low wattage, super low wattage. So that probably, maybe one of the things was taken off the auto fan. It allowed Phoenix Miner to do what it was designed to do, I guess, right? Maybe that has something to do with it. This is solid though. Thanks for that, man. That's awesome. All right, let's head over to. I think I'm good. I think I'm good now. Let's head over to. Thanks, Chan Coin again. Let's head over to Brandon Coin, and I will see you guys tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, I'll basically run through the same thing. I'm going to, but use NVIDIA instead. It's a 6 GPU rig, so I'll be using that instead, and then we'll just kind of go back through the same settings and go back through the farm, default and all that stuff. So I'll see you guys tomorrow night. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you smash the like and all that junk on the way out, and share the video with your friends and all that stuff. You guys are awesome. I will see you tomorrow night. Stay savage, everybody.